The air in the room is thick, suffocating. It smells faintly of old dust and the metallic tang of desperation. He doesn't see me. He's hunched over the small wooden table in the pawn shop's back room, the fluorescent light overhead harsh, unforgiving. My grandmother's necklace lies between them on a square of black velvet, the pearl teardrop, nestled in intricate silver filigree. It feels like watching someone dismantle my own skeleton, piece by painful piece. My fingers are numb, gripping the edge of the doorway I'm hidden behind. The jeweler's loupe is pressed to the seller's eye, his face impassive. He holds the necklace up, turning it this way and that. My husband talks, his voice low, a little too casual, a false bravado coating the edges. He points to the clasp, mentions something about the silver, its purity. He's selling it. He is actually selling it. My grandmother's necklace. To him, it's just metal and a stone. To me, it's Sundays at her house, the scent of lavender and baking bread, her hands, gnarled with age, fastening this very clasp around my neck on my 16th birthday. A legacy. A promise. And he is selling it for cash right now. My breath hitches. A silent, searing pain tears through my chest. This isn't just theft. It's desecration. He looks up, smiles thinly at the jeweler. A smile I once loved but now recognize as a mask worn thin. He nods. It's done. Money changes hands. He pockets the cash, stuffing it carelessly into his jacket. He turns, starts towards the door, towards me, his face a picture of practiced innocence. He still doesn't see me. The rage is a cold, hard stone in my gut. This isn't the end. This is war. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. Life had a rhythm to it, a comfortable, predictable beat. It wasn't a grand opera, but it was my melody. Mornings started with coffee and the newspaper, his section, then mine. Evenings were shared meals, sometimes quiet, sometimes filled with comfortable chatter about the day. We had built a home, brick by brick, year by year. My career was steady, his seemed to be too. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We had security. Or so I thought. My grandmother, Elena, had been the bedrock of my world after my parents were gone. She was a woman carved from resilience and grace, her hands always busy, her eyes sharp but kind. Her jewelry wasn't just adornment, it was history. Each piece held a story. The pearl necklace was her mother's, worn on her wedding day, passed down with strict instructions. Keep it safe, pass it to the next generation who understood its weight, its meaning, its love. There was a small sapphire ring, deep blue like a twilight sky, a gift from my grandfather before he left for the war. A pair of intricate gold earrings, brought from the old country generations ago. These weren't assets to be liquidated. They were relics, charged with memory and love. They were irreplaceable. They sat in a heavy wooden box on my dresser, opened only on special occasions, a quiet connection to the women who had shaped me. My husband knew their value, not in dollars, but in sentiment. He had seen me trace the filigree, heard the stories. Or so I thought. The first crack in the foundation was subtle. A late night at the office that stretched into dawn. A hushed phone call abruptly ended when I entered the room. A new cologne he hadn't worn before. Little things, easily explained away by a tired mind, a trusting heart. Stress at work, he'd say. Just catching up with a friend. I believed him, because I wanted to. Because the alternative was too ugly to contemplate. We had been married for 10 years. 10 years felt like an unbreakable shield. But the small cracks grew, spiderwebbing across the surface of our life. He became distant, preoccupied. Our conversations grew strained, superficial. He stopped asking about my day, his eyes scanning his phone while I talked. He flinched if I touched him unexpectedly. The comfortable rhythm was faltering, replaced by a jarring, off-key beat. I tried to talk to him. Is everything okay? I'd ask, my voice tentative. He'd snap, fine, just tired, or stop interrogating me. The defensiveness was a new layer on his skin, hard and repelling. I felt like I was walking on glass, each step threatening to shatter something precious. Then came the financial oddities. Unexplained withdrawals from the joint account. Bills that suddenly piled up unpaid. I managed our finances, a task I'd always handled. At first, I thought I'd made a mistake, forgotten a payment. But it kept happening. Larger amounts disappeared with no explanation. When I asked, he'd give vague answers. Business expense. Lent some money to a friend, the numbers didn't add up. My gut twisted. This wasn't just distance. This was deception. The late nights escalated. The friends he was meeting were always elusive. I started checking his phone records, a sickening invasion of privacy I justified as necessity. The calls were frequent, late, always to the same number. An unknown number. The air in the house grew colder, heavier with unspoken lies. He was building a wall brick by brick between us, and I was on the wrong side. The truth arrived not with a bang, but a whisper. Tucked away in his jacket pocket, left carelessly on the floor, was a small, expensive-looking receipt from a high-end jewelry store. Not a pawn shop. A real jewelry store. Bought. A diamond pendant. Total. Astronomical. Paid by his personal credit card. The date was recent. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a business expense. This wasn't lending money to a friend. My hands shook as I held the slip of paper. The sheer, undeniable proof hit me like a physical blow.
A diamond pendant.
Who was it for? The unknown number. The late nights. The missing money. The pieces clicked into place with a horrifying finality. He was having an affair. The woman on the other end of those calls wasn't a friend. She was a mistress. And he was buying her diamond pendants. The world tilted. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had built my life upon, was a lie. The 10 years, the comfortable rhythm, the shared dreams, all illusions. He had been living a double life, and I had been blind. Not just blind, but trusting. Foolish. The pain was so sharp, so absolute, it stole the air from my lungs. I wanted to scream, to rage, to shatter everything around me. But a different feeling began to surface. Colder, harder. Betrayal. Deep, bone-deep betrayal. It wasn't just about another woman. It was about the deceit, the disrespect, the destruction of trust. I confronted him with the receipt. His face drained of color. He stammered, denied, tried to twist it into something innocent, a gift for his sister, a work bonus. But the lies were thin, transparent. His eyes darted away. He couldn't meet mine. In that moment, seeing his guilt laid bare, the last fragile threads of my love for him snapped. They didn't just fray, they broke, sharp and clean. Something inside me hardened. The pain was still there, a dull ache now, but it was overlaid with a resolve I hadn't known I possessed. I wouldn't just be a victim. I wouldn't just collapse into grief. He had chosen his path. Now I would choose mine. And it wouldn't involve quietly fading away. I didn't tell him I knew about the affair. I just watched. Listened. My silence was a new weapon. I learned the unknown number belonged to a woman named Sarah. I learned where she lived, where she worked. I learned about the dinners, the weekends away, funded, I now knew, by money draining from our shared life. The bills piled higher. Our savings dwindled. He was funneling everything into this other life, this shiny, new, deceitful world he was building with her. He was dismantling mine to do it. Then came the day I opened the wooden box on my dresser. The familiar weight was wrong. Lighter. My fingers fumbled with the latch. It sprang open. Empty. The sapphire ring gone. The gold earrings gone. My breath hitched. Where were they? Panic clawed at my throat. I searched the room, frantic, turning over drawers, looking under the bed. Nothing. They weren't misplaced. They were stolen. Stolen from my own home. My mind leaped to the only person who could have taken them. Him. But why? And where? Then I remembered the financial strain, the expensive gifts for Sarah. A horrifying realization dawned. He wasn't just spending our money. He was selling my things. He was selling my grandmother's jewelry to fund his affair. The pearl necklace. Was it still there? I lifted the tray in the box. The space where the necklace should have been was empty.
Gone.
All of it. The ache in my chest returned, sharper this time, laced with a bitter fury. This wasn't just theft. This was a violation. It was a betrayal of my history, my family, my soul. He hadn't just stolen objects. He had stolen memories, trust, identity. He had taken the pieces of women who had loved me and pawned them for sex and lies. This was no longer just a personal crisis. This was a cold, calculated act of destruction. He wasn't just cheating. He was financially ruining us, using my most precious heirlooms as currency for his infidelity. A cold, hard certainty settled over me. I couldn't confront him. Not yet. If I did, he would lie, manipulate, hide whatever he had left. He would destroy the evidence.
No.
I needed proof. Undeniable proof. And I needed a plan. A plan to reclaim what was mine. Not just the jewelry, but my dignity, my future. I contacted a private investigator. Not a friend of a friend, not someone cheap. I found the best. A woman named Clara Vance. Her reputation preceded her. Sharp, discreet, relentless. I met her in a neutral location, a quiet cafe on the other side of town. I laid it all out. The distant husband, the late nights, the mistress, the missing money, the final, devastating discovery of the missing jewelry. Clara listened, her face unreadable, her eyes missing nothing. When I finished, she didn't offer platitudes. She just nodded. "He's careless," she said. "That's his weakness. He thinks he's smart, but he's just reckless." I told her about the significance of the jewelry, how irreplaceable it was. How I didn't just want him gone. I wanted the pieces back. Clara leaned forward. "Getting the physical items back will be difficult if they've been resold," she explained. "Pawn shops move inventory. Buyers resell. But we can trace the transactions. Build a case. Not just for divorce, but for theft.
Fraud.
Maybe even something worse depending on how deep he's dug the hole." A plan began to form. It wasn't about confrontation anymore. It was about strategy, about turning his own actions against him. We would track his movements, his transactions. We would find out who he was selling to. This was where the idea sparked, a cold, daring thought that made my heart pound, not with fear, but with a fierce, exhilarating sense of power. What if the buyers weren't strangers? What if I controlled who he sold to? Clara's network was extensive. She had contacts everywhere, including in the gray market of antique dealers and high-end pawn shops. We started building the net. Clara's associates, posing as interested buyers, began circulating in the circles where my husband might try to offload the jewelry. They weren't just looking, they were primed to buy. To buy my grandmother's stolen legacy. The waiting was excruciating. Every day felt like a year. I lived a double life, pretending everything was normal at home, while secretly building the case, the trap. I watched him, seeing the lies in his eyes, the casual cruelty of his deception. He was spending money he didn't have, showering gifts on another woman, while our life, our shared future, crumbled. He was oblivious, walking around with a smug confidence that fueled my cold anger. He thought he was getting away with it. He thought I was naive, stupid. He underestimated me. That was his second mistake. His first was marrying me and then breaking every vow. Then Clara called. "He's made contact," she said, her voice low. "He's trying to sell the sapphire ring." My breath hitched. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "One of my buyers," she confirmed. "Agreed on a price.
Cash.
Meeting tomorrow." A tremor ran through me. It was happening. The plan was in motion. My grandmother's ring, changing hands not to a stranger, but to someone working for me. A small piece of control wrested back from the chaos he had created. Over the next few weeks, the reports came in like pieces of a grim puzzle. He sold the gold earrings. Then a smaller brooch I hadn't even realized was missing. Each time, it was to one of Clara's buyers. Each time, they documented the transaction, photographed him, the piece, the cash changing hands. They were meticulous, building an irrefutable paper trail. He was so eager for the cash, so confident in his deception. He didn't notice the subtle similarities in the buyers, the slight overlap in their interests, the way they always insisted on cash, no traceable checks or transfers. He just saw easy money, a way to keep funding his fantasy. He didn't realize he was meticulously documenting his own crimes for me. I saw the pearl necklace listing online, on a private forum, listed by a seller known for discreet transactions. Clara's team was on it instantly. This was the most important piece, the centerpiece of my grandmother's collection. It had the most emotional weight, the most history. It had to be retrieved. The negotiation was tense, drawn out. My husband, through his anonymous online persona, was driving a hard bargain. He knew its value, at least financially. The buyer, one of Clara's most skilled negotiators, played it cool, feigning reluctance, finally agreeing to his inflated price. The meeting was set. This was the meeting I witnessed hidden in the doorway of the pawn shop's back room. Watching him, seeing the casual way he handled the necklace, the family heirloom, like just another commodity. Seeing him take the money, stuff it into his pocket, turn, and walk towards the door.
Towards me.
The rage was still there, but it was colder now, sharper. Honed by weeks of waiting, watching, planning. He was a dead man walking, and he didn't even know it. I stepped out of the doorway, blocking his path. He stopped, surprised. His smile faltered. "Oh, hey," he said, trying to recover. "Didn't expect to see you here." His eyes flickered past me, towards the jeweler. He looked uncomfortable, trapped.
Good.
"No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I'm sure you didn't." His eyes narrowed slightly. He sensed something was wrong, but he didn't know what. "Not yet." "What are you doing here?" he asked, trying for casual irritation. "Just running errands," I replied, a small, chilling smile playing on my lips. "And it seems our errands brought us to the same place." I gestured towards the back room, towards the jeweler carefully putting the necklace away. "Interesting choice of errand, wouldn't you say?" He paled. He knew I had seen, but he still didn't know the extent. He stammered, I was just looking for a gift. For you." His lies were pathetic, desperate. The money was still warm in his pocket. "For me?" I echoed, stepping closer. The coldness in my voice cut through the air. "Selling my grandmother's necklace? To buy me a gift? That's a new level of twisted, even for you." He backed away slightly. It's not what you think," he pleaded, his eyes wide with a dawning panic. "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think," I said, and the smile wasn't a smile anymore. It was a predator's baring of teeth. "You stole from me.
From my family.
You sold pieces that meant everything to me to fund your little side life. Your mistress. Diamond pendants and stolen heirlooms. You've been busy." His face crumpled. The denial died on his lips. He knew I knew about Sarah, but he still didn't grasp the whole picture. Not the trap he had walked into.
How?
"How did you know?" he whispered, defeated. "You're not as smart as you think," I said. "Just careless. You left breadcrumbs everywhere. The money, the calls, the receipts." I paused, letting the weight of it sink in. "And the sales." This was it. The moment. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, though there was no one else close enough to hear. "Remember all those people you sold the jewelry to?" I watched his eyes, saw the flicker of confusion, then fear. He nodded slowly, wary. "That sapphire ring? The gold earrings? The brooch? And just now, the necklace." He nodded again, his breathing shallow. "They weren't random buyers," I told him, my voice ice. "They were working for me." His eyes went wide, like a cornered animal. "What?" "Every single piece you sold," I continued, the words precise, deliberate. "You sold to someone in my network. Clara Vance's network. My private investigator." The color drained from his face completely. He stumbled back, hitting the wall. "No," he breathed. "You're lying." "Am I?" I smiled, a slow, venomous smile. "Every transaction was documented. Your identity confirmed. Photos, videos, the paper trail of where the money went afterwards. to her apartment, to her bills. You didn't just sell my jewelry. You built me an ironclad case.
For theft.
For fraud. For divorce, obviously. You thought you were being clever, funding your betrayal by liquidating my past. But you were just digging your own grave. And I provided the shovel. He stared at me, his face a mask of shock, disbelief, and utter, absolute terror. The smug confidence was gone, replaced by naked fear. He was blindsided. Completely and utterly blindsided. He thought he had erased his tracks by dealing in cash, by selling to strangers. He never imagined the strangers were on my payroll. He never imagined I wouldn't just weep and leave, but that I would fight back, strategically, ruthlessly. He thought I was weak. That was his fatal error. The jeweler, sensing the shift in the air, emerged cautiously from the back room. He held the necklace, looking between us, confused. I turned to him. The necklace, I said, my voice firm. It's not his to sell. It was stolen. I'll be taking it now. The jeweler hesitated, looking at my husband. My husband was frozen, unable to speak, to react. It's family property, I stated, my eyes locking onto the jeweler's. Stolen property. I have proof of ownership. I nodded towards my husband. He stole it from my home. The jeweler looked from my husband's terrified, speechless face to my calm, determined one. He made his decision. Carefully, he placed the necklace into my outstretched hand. The pearl was cool against my skin. A tangible piece of my history, returned. I clutched it tight. As for the other pieces he sold you, I said to the jeweler, we'll be in touch. We have the transaction details. My lawyer will be contacting you and the others who bought the stolen items. The jeweler's eyes widened further. This was clearly bigger than he thought. He stammered something about not knowing they were stolen. I didn't respond. My attention was solely on my husband, still slumped against the wall, his world having just imploded. He looked broken, not with sorrow, but with the crushing weight of his own failure. He had been outmaneuvered, outplayed, caught in a net of his own making. He tried to speak, but only a choked sound came out. It's over, I told him, my voice devoid of emotion. Everything. Your life with me. Your little fantasy with her. Your freedom. I have the evidence. All of it. And I will use it. I turned and walked away, the weight of the necklace in my hand a comforting presence. I left him there, in the harsh light of the pawn shop, alone with the ruins of his deception. He thought he had taken everything from me. But in trying, he had given me the tools to take back more than he ever stole. I had my proof. I had my heirlooms returning. And I had my power. The divorce was swift, brutal. He tried to fight, but the evidence was insurmountable. Clara's paper trail was a masterpiece of documentation. The buyers, all working for me, testified to the transactions, confirming he had sold the jewelry, confirming he was the one pocketing the cash. The money trail from those sales leading straight to Sarah sealed his fate in the court of public opinion, and in the legal one. His mistress quickly disappeared when faced with the reality of his financial and legal ruin. It wasn't about love for her. It was about what he could provide. And he could provide nothing now but disgrace. He faced charges for theft and fraud. The legal consequences were severe. He lost his job, his reputation, everything he had built, flimsy as it was. He thought he could sell my past for his future. But his future evaporated the moment he underestimated the woman he married. Reclaiming the other pieces wasn't easy. Some buyers were cooperative once presented with the evidence. Others required legal pressure. But one by one, the sapphire ring, the gold earrings, the brooch, they all came back to me. They weren't just objects anymore. They were symbols. Symbols of betrayal, yes, but also symbols of resilience, of a heritage that could not be easily dismantled, and of a strength I had found within myself. Holding the jewelry box again, full once more, felt like healing a wound I hadn't known was festering so deeply. The pieces carried the weight of what had happened, the ugliness of his actions, but they also carried the enduring love of the women who had worn them before me. They were mine again, not just physically but spiritually. The aftermath isn't a storybook ending. There's no triumphant walk into the sunset without scars. The pain of the betrayal lingers, a phantom ache. Trust, once broken, is a fragile thing, maybe impossible to fully rebuild in that way. But there is a profound sense of peace, of justice served, of power reclaimed. He thought he was destroying me, but he only forged me stronger. I wasn't the naive wife anymore. I was the woman who had stared into the abyss of betrayal and found the cold, hard ground beneath my feet. I built my own leverage, used his own greed against him, and emerged from the wreckage, not unscathed, but whole. More whole than I had been in years. The jewelry box sits on my dresser again, not as a reminder of what was stolen, but as a testament to what was saved, what was fought for, what was won. The weight of the pearl necklace in my hand, the coolness of the sapphire ring against my finger, these are not just connections to the past. They are anchors in my present, and promises for a future I am building myself, piece by careful, deliberate piece. If this story hit close to home, if you've ever felt this way, I'd love to hear your version. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.